Okay, narrative breakers, I have a story that I did not think I would ever be posting about. Mark Zuckerberg has just donated $1 million to Donald Trump, specifically his inauguration fund, which now solidifies a complete transformation for Mark Zuckerberg from being a raging liberal to a what people could see somewhat a conservative. He claims to be a libertarian, but we're going to break into that, and I'm going to break into and expose why I believe that to be false and why he's truly a conservative, and getting ready to let everyone know the great bait and switch that he has planned with President Trump. You're in for a good one today.
All right. Well, Doctor, I strongly agree that we need somewhat of a reset here. As someone running a business, I've said that I believe the best way to improve both public health and economic opportunity in this country is to focus on beating this virus first. And I also have to say, I think you might be quite generous in your description of the government's response here. I was certainly sympathetic early on when it was clear that there would be some outbreaks, no matter how well we handle this. But now that we're here in July, I just think that it was avoidable, and it's really disappointing that we still don't have adequate testing, that the credibility of our top scientists like yourself and the CDC are being undermined, and until recently, that parts of the administration were calling into question whether people should even follow basic best practices like wearing masks.
Stephen, real quick, Politico is reporting that Mark Zuckerberg was at Mar-a-Lago today meeting with President Trump. Can you confirm that?
Yes, that's correct.
Here we go. Okay, if you guys don't know, so yes, this is about to break down into this a little bit more, and let's get into the nitty gritty. The video before this one was actually showing Mark Zuckerberg speaking about his response to 2020. And the paperwork I put beside it was, of course, the first article being Wall Street Journal, which had the exclusive of him donating. And the one that followed it, that screenshot, if you saw the mega logo on the top left, it was actually Mark Zuckerberg's apology pretty much to the American public for the way that he actually did act in 2020. So it was kind of a compare and contrast of what he was then and is now. Now, to focus on the subject at hand, I have I have beat mainstream media on YouTube on specifically with this story because it's only on X, it's somewhat on Instagram, it's definitely on Google, but I haven't seen anyone like CNN and Fox News create a YouTube video on this yet. So that's why you don't have as much content for the specific subject matter on it. But here we are to add context. That's what we are here for. The mainstream media don't have it, you can find it here. And that's what we're about to do right here.
Mark Zuckerberg has been very clear about his desire to be a supporter of and a participant in this change that we're seeing all around America, all around.
And this is interesting because Mark Zuckerberg actually went to Mar-a-Lago just a few days ago, and this is the reports that came out in response to that. People were wondering why he met up with Trump. It has been confirmed by the Wall Street Journal that he met with Trump and informed him about this $1 million donation. Although they did not, neither party, neither President Trump or Mark Zuckerberg informed anyone, gave any leaks on this coming out on this donation. So who knows what else is behind the scenes. But this was already identified when he went to go see President Trump. And it shows from this conversation that mainstream media had kind of an idea of what it was, but didn't have full verification.
Around the world with this reform movement that Donald Trump is leading. Mark Zuckerberg, like so many business leaders, understand that President Trump is an agent of change, an agent of prosperity.
Right.
And so business leaders, CEOs, everywhere, they want to be an element, a supporter, a booster of making our economy prosperous, delivering for American workers, and making sure that America is the most powerful, wealthiest, freest nation on the face of the earth. So we'll see what comes of that. And Mark, obviously, he has his own interests, and he has his own company, and he has his own agenda, but he's made clear that he wants to support the national renewal of America under President Trump's leadership.
Good. It's good for the president. He turned the page with some talk show hosts on another channel, and he might be maybe getting over the fact that Zuckerbucks really impacted the 2020 election in those very in the battleground areas.
And he did. So we're going to get into that too, family, where Zuckerberg praised Trump and was saying that he was badass. We got all of that content here. Everything's going to be broken down. And more importantly, but I feel like the most important part of this video is going to touch on where I believe this change happened with Mark Zuckerberg, why it happened, why it's significant, and what it shows just the current climate of America currently being and where we're headed. Yes. And these were Zuckerberg comments, of course. This is his response to President Trump being, well, the attempted assassination. And it shows Zuckerberg visit follows previous interactions, including the August apology, which I put at the very beginning of this YouTube video. And so here we go. Here's the post for all of you to see. Here's the post. They were showing about Facebook actually flagging the photos. In case you thought you don't know, Facebook was flagging photos of the shooting, calling it AI generated. And Mark Zuckerberg actually apologized and called President-elect Trump to address it directly. And of course, in August, it shows Zuckerberg claimed that he could not support a Democrat due to the way they just lost their way. I believe that he's known they lost their way for a long time, and he submitted to them because he was still in the growth process. He was trying to maintain structure in the American political system, and he had to first show the government that Meta could be an ally, that he wasn't a radical, he wasn't a revolutionary. And if Mark Zuckerberg could convince the government that he wasn't a revolutionary, he was willing to just become a product of whatever they wanted him to be, it allowed for him to gain a significant amount of authority. And with that authority, he has been able to now choose his own beliefs or direct his opinions and his funds to his own true aspirations. At least that's one theory, but let's break into it here from Zuckerberg's own mouth as to why he's been supporting Trump and what he really thought about that entire assassination attempt. Tell me if it does seem disingenuous or not. To me, he seems extremely authentic. And he feels like, to me, it looks like something similar to someone when they've just recently taken a red pill. He appears to have just recently broke out of the matrix. And you have a lot.
Facebook has been a flashpoint in many elections around the world, and you personally have been called out, most recently by former President Trump. This is a big election. What do you think is at stake?
Well, I mean, look, it's obviously a very important and it'll be a historic election. I feel like I'm best positioned maybe to talk about what our role will be in it and what we're going to do. And look, I mean, the main thing that I hear from people is that they actually want to see less political content on our services because they come to our services to connect with people. So, that's what we're going to do, where we give people control over this, but we're generally trying to recommend less political content. So I think you're going to see our services play less of a role in this election than they have in the past. And personally, I'm also planning on not playing a significant role in the election. I've done some stuff personally in the past. I'm not planning on doing that this time. And that includes.
And he didn't do it. And if you notice, he was very careful with his words. I want people to pay attention that we're in political warfare. We're in the next generation of warfare, which is not of drones and which is not of missiles, but it's of the mind. And when you're at war, you better be very careful what you say. He said, I don't plan on doing that this time. He had no intentions of sabotaging President Trump, but he still had to keep the Democrat hive mind at bay. He can't be too radical, guys. You got to understand the position he's coming from. When you make a transition, it needs to be gradual, and it can't be too much at once, or at least the people confused, feeling betrayed, and more importantly, they get angry, and they start to, or should I say, they stop supporting you and everything that you believe because they feel like you're flip-floppy. Well, you can't really call someone flip-floppy if they gradually becomes that person, and that's what he had to portray, that he's gradually becoming self-aware.
Includes, not endorsing either of the candidates. Now, look, I mean, there's obviously a lot of crazy stuff going on in the world. I mean, the historic events over the last, over the weekend. And I mean, on a personal note, it's, seeing Donald Trump get up after getting shot in the face and pump his fist in the air with the American flag is one of the most badass things I've ever seen in my life. But, and I think, look, at some level as an American, it's like hard to not get kind of emotional about that spirit and that fight. And I think that that's why a lot of people like the guy. But look, I mean, we're living in a pretty crazy time. And I view our role here is to make it so that everyone can express their views on this stuff. But we're going to try to manage it so that way the politics doesn't drown out the human connection and the community, which is, I think, the main thing that people come to our services for. And, we're not always going to get that right, but that's what we're going to try to do. And I think that that's probably the best role that we can play.
So here we go. This is the part of the video I really want to start touching into to everyone. I want to touch on the fact that Mark Zuckerberg most likely made his transition to conservative around this point. And like I said, we're at war, right? Go back to that last reference. We're at war, so you have to be very careful with what you say and how you do it. I feel like Mark Zuckerberg became more conservative because all of the UFC loves Trumps. It's a masculine sport. It's pretty masculine toxic. If you talk about masculine toxicity, it's one of those type of situations where masculinity rules. And these are a no BS type of people. So when you're surrounded by that group, iron sharpens iron. He starts to work out some. He starts to become more conservative. He starts to become more relatable. He starts hanging out possibly with Dana White. The fighters, of course, we do know he hangs out with the fighters. And they start rubbing off on him because possibly, you got to understand, this is a Harvard graduate, etc. Mark possibly never had the opportunity to do these things, to be a quote-unquote cool kid or whatever our perception of cool is. He's always been the intelligent one, but maybe he's always wanted to be accepted. And this is why I say the importance of accepting people. I tell conservatives, don't shun people for speaking different. Don't shun people because they might make a complaint that you don't resonate with. Hey, listen to them for a second. Try to accept it a little bit. Maybe, at the same time, correct them when they're wrong. Don't accept ignorance, but accept them and let them come as they are, because some people just really want acceptance. They want to be a part of the conservative club. And I know some liberals might look at this and baff at it, but some people want to be a part of the teams. And you have to be careful with how you treat people. Accept them because you might have an ally. Or if you deny them, you might have a new enemy. But to me, as soon as Mark Zuckerberg started being accepted, as soon as people on social media started saying he's pretty cool, he's this and that, he changed his perception of everything. He said, man, maybe people aren't evil. Maybe we're all just locked into the things that we believe. He started seeing stuff for what it is. And I think the UFC held a great responsibility in helping him convert. And I think it was this specific moment, not because him looking awkward and people talking about it, because he's got to see himself go viral. It doesn't matter if you're the richest man in the world. It feels good when people say nice things about you. It don't matter how rich someone is or famous they are. Don't let them gaslight you into thinking that your words don't matter. There are people with extremely rich still go to psychiatrists and therapists just because of what they've seen and read online. So don't get it confused. I think he genuinely enjoyed being the cool guy, being a protagonist for once.
Last time we saw him, of course, was against Islam Makhachev when he stepped up on short notice.
Yeah. Wait, are you ready? Because the pressure's on.
Here's the second moment. Here's the next moment with the situation. Mark Zuckerberg with his wife. This was a pretty awkward moment with his wife getting pretty close with said fighter. But here was yet another moment that the internet was kind of shocked to see how Mark Zuckerberg being so cool, because this was the first time that I believe we seen Mark Zuckerberg use profanity. At this point, I knew he was long gone. Mark Zuckerberg using profanity, I was like, what the heck? He's going completely Chad. But this was yet another thing. When Zuckerberg, he was testing out the waters, y'all. He said, let me try this conservative thing a little bit. Let me try to be a man about it real fast. He tested out being a man like a robot. They got a new software update. He tested out that feature. It worked well for him, and he went all the way. It looked like a kid that get the chance to finally cuss, and his parents is no longer there to tell him he just did a bad thing. I'm telling you, it looks somewhat genuine to me with Zuckerberg. It seems like he really is breaking out. And you guys got to understand, if it is genuine, it is what it is. Man, listen, this is single-handedly the most damning thing to happen to the Democrat Party in the last 10 years. And I'm not over-exaggerating this, because we have Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg. The influence both of them is going to have on anyone else, it's unprecedented. it's unreal. They're going to have an effect on anyone and everyone in the tech industry. You got two of the largest, the absolute largest, and that's not a cope. They are the largest tech conglomerates right now, in terms of those being a recognized name. Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk are the most recognized names right now in current tech social media world. Easily. Those are the two most famous people right now. You don't have the big threes, big fours like that. Zuck owns it all, and Elon owns what's left, except with Google, of course. So to have that, it's going to change everything. It's one thing to have X, but to have an Instagram that could gain conservative focus is unreal.
Don't fuck this up. Don't fuck this up. So he's coming in, and he's there right now. He's gonna look. Okay, give him. There you go. I like it. That's what we're doing. You're not doing that. You're fucked up. You cannot do this. UFC 300. Slap right there. Okay. If you want to, brace yourself and get down there. Roll under. All right. Go back here.
That's Mark Zuckerberg's wife. I don't know what she's doing with bro, but he told her, don't F this up, don't F it up. Or he was just talking to his boy, one of the two. But that's what really just went viral. This was what, 3 months ago? Zuckerberg looked very proud to be accepted.
And you back away, and you got her to inspect you, and then her will come in.
That's it. Tech titans, they went in on the action. First, it was Meta's Mark Zuckerberg raising his hand, eager.
Now, here's something that's very interesting. The CEO of Rumble, and I think to me, the most interesting video of this whole entire YouTube, the CEO of Rumble came and sounded off against Mark Zuckerberg, saying he's kind of trying to buy his way into Trump's graces. And he's telling the American people to be weary of it, to have their guard up on Mark Zuckerberg. I can't criticize Rumble for this because honestly, they would understand more than what most could. But I want to ask you, the viewer, is it a stretch to try to give Mark Zuckerberg some forgiveness? Should we keep him or trust him with a 10-inch pole? Or should we just not trust him at all and alienate him and possibly lose that ability to gain a new ally? Or is it just so damaging to accept someone that could destroy us from the inside that it's not even worth the risk? That's the real question.
To work with the incoming Trump administration on shaping tech policy. But can we say the irony? Facebook and Instagram have a reputation for over-moderating content, even issuing multiple suspensions to then President Trump. Now enter Jeff Bezos, the Amazon founder and Washington Post owner. He's hoping to mend fences with President-elect. Watch.
I'm actually very optimistic this time around that we're going to see. I'm very hopeful about this. He seems to have a lot of energy around reducing regulation. And my point of view, if I can help him do that, I'm going to help him.
But not so fast. Senior advisor Jason Miller didn't hold back, saying that Trump forgives, but he doesn't forget.
We know from President Trump and the way he governed in his first term, that he likes to build a broad coalition, bring people together, even if they've been against him in the past. He never forgets. And I would just remind people of that.
Joining us now, Rumble CEO and founder Chris Pavlovski. Chris, what do you make of the about face from big tech in Silicon Valley?
Yeah, so I think, they kind of move whatever way the wind blows when it comes to actually holding values, and especially around the First Amendment. There are none. If we can all remember 4 years ago, it was the Hunter Biden laptop story where all these platforms started censoring factual information and, in my opinion, really helped sway the election in a major way. And I feel that there has to be consequences for things like that. We can't let that escape. They did real damage with the censorship they've done in the last 4 years. And that's something that Rumble has been fighting since 2020. And we've been fighting fiercely. We're the first platform out there to platform President Trump in 2021. And, it wasn't until about 2022 where Elon Musk entered the market with X and also helped on the free speech front. So it's really important that there's consequences for this mass censorship that's happened over the last 4 years around COVID, around the elections. And if there's no consequences, then companies like Meta and Google will continue to abuse their powers.
Now, this is the thing. I do agree with that. But if Mark Zuckerberg is making a shift, they wouldn't abuse the power, would they? Or would they make changes? Or is he saying it just he believes that he's trying to sneak away into the next well, I should say into the next Donald Trump administration. That appears to be what it could be, that he's trying to allude that Mark Zuckerberg is trying to sneak his way into another Trump administration, thus giving him more government support and control. That gives him the ability to censor conservatives in the future. Now, I feel like that is a great risk, but do I really think Trump would allow it to happen? Nah, not after they screwed him, not if they banned him and prevented him from being able to speak. I think he's going to hold him by the BALS and hold him accountable, because Trump understands more than anyone how dangerous Mark Zuckerberg can be, and I feel like it should be no one but Trump to observe him, because Trump was someone that was affected by him. It's one thing if this dude just sat there and attacked conservatives, but Trump is also a victim to the man. If Trump's willing to sit down with him, I feel like conservatives should figuratively be able to do the same thing
and continue to sway elections in ways that that shouldn't be happening. So I'm very for some type of consequence in this scenario, and it's ultimately up and it's in the Trump administration's hands and to see what they'll do. But I think it's really important that for what they've done in the past, there are consequences.
Right, Chris, it's maybe keep your friends close and your enemies closer, because remember, Bobby Kennedy, his account was shut down on Instagram, I think until last year, until he started running for the presidency. It's just astonishing. And they will destroy these these companies, be it Meta or Google, through YouTube, they'll destroy you. They'll deplatform somebody and you will no longer have a business. And on that note, you have not only fought to give people a voice and the freedoms that are guaranteed to them under the Constitution, under our Bill of Rights and the First Amendment, but you've also gone to court. And just recently, you sued the state of California over this new anti-deep fake law, arguing that it does indeed violate the First Amendment.
Absolutely. So, it's one thing to talk the talk at Rumble. We walk the walk. We challenge. We challenge states. We challenge governments around the world. We've challenged the New York State. We've also recently, as you mentioned, are challenging California. They went out of their way to submit a law. They're trying to pass a law that's going to ban political satire. They're going after satire. This is like. Right. This is like something you would see out of North Korea, not something you think you'd see out of California or anywhere in the United States.
And everything saying is completely true. It's just the fact of, like, I don't really see many recent scenarios of Meta doing these things. I know they did censor the Trump assassination attempt, but it's showing that it's a biased AI that Zuckerberg has let take over. And just like X, is going to take some time to cleanse it up. Now, I fear for Zuckerberg acting like a good guy when Trump is president and then transitioning and turning his back on conservatives. That would be absolutely horrible. But let's be real. I don't think it would really save him, because at that point, no one will trust him. You can't just, at the end of the day, he's essentially betraying liberals. You can't just betray liberals, then betray conservatives, and think you're still going to have a home to go back to. When you switch parties or switch stances, unfortunately, in the way our current political structure is, it shouldn't be this way. But in our current political structure, you only got one chance. You don't get to come back.
Or anywhere in the Western world. So seeing stuff like this is really troublesome. We sued the California AG, and so did the Babylon Bee. The Babylon Bee is also on Rumble, and they have all their contents on Rumble. And going out of their way to try to ban satire is something that we're not going to stand for. And it just goes to the mission that we're on. We're about walking the walk, not walking the talk. We do it through action, and that's what we're doing in California.
Chris, I want to switch gears with you real quick. We just talked to a big Bitcoin bear. You're a Bitcoin bull. You're going to put $20 million worth of it on your balance sheet. Why?
So we recently announced that we're going to adopt the Bitcoin treasury strategy. Obviously, if you've taken a look at Bitcoin over the past decade, it's been volatile, but it continues to move up. I'm a firm believer in any decentralization currency, digital currency. This is a widely adopted currency, and contrasted to what your previous guest said, it is being used. It's being used multiple different ways. And one of the ways that I would like to see it being used is on Rumble, where creators can receive donations in BTC or Tether. They can receive donation or even get paid in BTC or Tether or US dollars, whatever they prefer. And that's kind of the way we're moving the company. And that's the future.
So no need to keep that going, of course. But as I was saying, it appears to me that Zuckerberg has been slowly, gradually moving towards this direction of being what he claimed libertarian. I believe it's conservative. He just saying libertarian so he don't get that much slack. When you claim you're libertarian, you're in the middle. But truly, I just believe he's conservative. I believe he's conservative because, like most conservative people, he's getting older. He's a billionaire. Oh, he's beyond the regular metrics. No, he's not. He's not beyond having a family. He's not beyond seeing how these things could affect his children. He's not beyond seeing how the stuff he's pushed has affected his wife's mental health. I mean, think of the things that Zuckerberg or the guilt that he feels. If you have creators on social media that are liberal, former liberals, say that they regret the stuff they spewed on the masses, and they spend their entire life trying to correct it by being a conservative in their latter years. Most of us do it. Even if you're not a political influencer, you might have been someone that was Gothic when you're younger. And if you're an adult and Gothic now, there's nothing wrong with it. But I'm just speaking of what naturally happens. You have people that are typically, when they're white, they're Gothic or they're into these EDM, raves, just like to have a good time. What they consider a good time. Black people typically going to block parties, typically would be gangsters, doing things that only young black people typically supposed to be doing. And they get older. They become capitalists. They become conservatives. Life experiences typically turn people to conservatives. And I can't imagine the amount of guilt that Zuckerberg could feel if he became conscious of how much he changed this country, not just elections, but changed culture as a whole. Maybe he's trying to rectify his apparent mistakes. The Bible says, come as you are. I'm not here to force religion on you. And our country says come as you are as well. Hell, they honestly say it with these open borders. But I'm not opposing working with Mark Zuckerberg. I'm sorry. I feel like this is how we could actually get America to resemble what it's supposed to be, where we have two parties, that a regular American citizen can say, I like something that this one said, and I like something this one said, and can get to a point where both parties aren't attacking the person who's saying they believe that both parties have something good to go off of. I'm hoping that's where we get to. But I'm also hoping that you don't miss my next video, and you could help this video by liking and commenting on it and subscribing to my channel to help boost me up in the algo so we can get out here, man. We can get our ranking up, you know what I'm saying? And click the notification bell so you can stay updated on my posts. Appreciate you guys. Ready for the next one. I got two good stories. I'm going to decide which one I want to hit y'all with first. That's after this one. But stay tuned. Not always, let me be careful with giving an ultimate. I really, really like my second story for the most part. Anytime I have a second story. But it seems like today won't be an exception to the rule. I got a really good story coming up after this one. Super excited to see you guys' opinion. Thank you for your support.